WCIU-TV, memorable entertainment television.
Welcome once again to Now Chicago. Each week, learning more about this great city we love so much, one neighborhood at a time. And in recent weeks, we did a thing about East Side, which we got a lot of response from. And there's so much going on in terms of really progressive thinking and city planning and a kind of a rebirth going on in the southeast side of Chicago that we decided to talk about South Chicago this week. And joining me now is Joann Podkul, chairman of the Calumet Stewardship Initiative. Joann, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's our pleasure.
Really, it's been an education for all of us here producing the show of all the things that are really progressive and really taking root on the southeast side of Chicago that many people may not really be aware of. And South Chicago particularly has a lot of things going on. First of all, tell us a little bit about the Calumet Stewardship Initiative.
Okay, the Calumet Stewardship Initiative is an organization. It's an umbrella organization including 40 organizations that work in the Calumet River watershed. And that extends all the way from Gary, Indiana, where part of the Calumet River starts, along the Calumet River, picking up all the communities along the way, and this, of course, is Northwest Indiana, and ending at 92nd Street, where the river flows into the lake. So that definitely includes South Chicago.
Now, before we started the program here today, you were giving me a little bit of a history lesson, and just the geology of the area with the river and the lake there is so significant when we talk about the potential of what can really be reborn.
Yes. Like the downtown area, the South Chicago has the advantage of having the river flowing into the lake, and that encouraged a lot of industry to build in that area, maybe more so in terms of really heavy industry than what happened downtown. Okay, and our history in South Chicago goes back to 1836. Rather modest perhaps, but that far back. And in its heyday, when the mills were operating, especially the U.S. Steel Mill, the mill itself employed something like 20,000 people. And that mill was responsible for producing what was necessary to win 2 world wars. And if you focus on some of the skyscrapers downtown, you'll find that the steel rods came out of the mill, out of materials made in the mill. So the employment rate was tremendously high. So it was a very, very prosperous community, extremely prosperous. Its origins are very working class, so that you would see very close to the mill property itself, 2 flats and 3 flats, right, which means the owner would live in 1 flat and rent out the rest, things like that. Boarding houses that probably had 3 shifts of guys occupying them during peak periods. And
that's kind of a unique thing about the area is that unlike a lot of the building codes that had to change in the rest of Chicago after the fire, when you get that far south, some of those codes didn't apply there, so you have a different style of architecture.
Yes, it was only the fire zone that was covered by the codes. Right. So we have buildings that go back to the, well, they're probably post-fire anyway, but the point is that there's still a lot of cottage-type buildings, right, 2 flats, 3 flats, balloon structure, bungalows, other things like that. But to kind of get back to the basic concept of the community and what's been happening with it, sure, we have a lot of institutions that have survived for an extremely long time. There are churches that are more than 100 years old, and they're featured on the South Chicago tour through the Chicago Office of Tourism. Christian Associates wrote the script for that. We also have a lot of other organizations. Christian itself, the Christian Order goes back to the 1920s, and it was responsible for building the first Mexican church in Chicago, Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, the school, an art center, medical center, 3 different senior residences, one that's 17 years old and has recently been retrofitted, 2 others that are now LEED Silver, that were just opened very recently.
Right.
And so that has been, Christian has been, I would say, the thrust toward green. It also builds...
For those fans of the show, you can log on to our website and see the episode we did on East Chicago, which we actually had a representative from the Claretians on that program.
Absolutely. Right. And they're also into affordable green housing. So if you go to South Chicago, you will see solar panels on several-story buildings, but you will also see them on very modest family homes.
No.
which is fantastic.
One of the things about that, when we talk about green architecture, in particular in urban planning, there's some critics out there who say that the return on investment on these kind of things just isn't practical in a lot of communities, and yet you seem to be able to make it work in South Chicago. Tell me about how you make the projects work and why it's been so successful in this area.
Clusian would take the lead in regard to that.
Yeah.
But their vision is to make something affordable and long-lasting. I think that the payback comes when you get your utility bills.
Right.
And you realize, oh, where I used to live, when it wasn't energy efficient, the amount that we'd have to spend would be a lot higher.
Right.
And this is energy efficient. Also, the appliances within the houses are energy efficient. And you realize, oh, okay, yeah, now we can pay the mortgage. Okay.
Right. In terms of outreach and education, I mean, you have a Green Summit that's very important, getting
and that
connecting and networking people. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. Okay. The Green Summit came out of an idea between my husband Kevin Murphy and myself and Angela Herlock.
Okay.
Just a casual thing about things that we had learned and realized all these treasures were right there in South Chicago, and it would be really important to let everybody who lives there, who works there, or who visits there, know about it. We were very fortunate. We put together a tour, and we put together a single day for the first 2 years and tried to cram everything green into that. Now it's a full month.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a lot to talk about.
Last 2 years have been, yeah, absolutely. We're very fortunate. John Pope, 10th Ward Alderman, leads the first tour. He's been doing that since the start of that. And also we get tremendous cooperation from the South Chicago Chamber of Commerce,
Right.
which has a trolley.
It's important to have the alderman on your side when you're doing this kind of thing, because zoning and making sure that there are certain kind of covenants and restrictions as to building and what can happen there is really important. If you're trying to do something progressive and different, you have to be like, hey, if we're going to build something new in this community, it has to incorporate some of these ideas that we're talking about right here in the summit.
Right. Another thing that Clusian was responsible for working on with Chicago Department of Planning was to apply through the U.S. Green Building Council to make the whole area and the USX properties, like half of that, a LEED, which is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design Neighborhood Development Plan. So anyone who builds now within that area has got to build LEED.
So all these big plans and blueprints that we've seen for plans that are going on for the USX site, all of these are going to have to, that's LEED.
Yes,
so all these are going to be
they're already incorporating that. And even the Velodrome, which is a new facility
Right.
at 87th and Buffalo, Burley, they plan their permanent facility to also be LEED. Yeah. Just have a kind of a quick overview
Sure.
in regard to what's happening in South Chicago.
Sure, sure.
A lot of the people who are still active there grew up there.
That's wrong.
Which is absolutely marvelous. And so you have this long-term kind
It's
of history.
absolutely vital, because you have a true commitment to people who've been there a while, as opposed to, it's good to have transplants and new money and new people there, but people who really have a commitment to keeping it and sustaining it. We're running out of time here. There's so many great things to talk about, but you tell you what, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I think this whole episode is going to be about progressive thinking. We're going to talk about sustainability and growing your own food and teaching people how to really get the fruits of the land. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Now Chicago. We're in South Chicago this week. Joining us now is Gregory Bratton, Executive Director of Intergenerational Growing Projects. Gregory, thanks for coming on. And when you came in the lobby today, I got a call from the receptionist who said, oh, I got some groceries. What are you doing on the show today? A beautiful basket of fresh produce, and this is really at the heart of what it is you're doing.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Well, tell us a little bit about the organization.
Okay, Intergenerational Growing Projects is a growing, well-established, not-for-profit organization that works throughout the city, teaching people how to be sustainable. And what we mean by that, we teach people when, where, why, and why not. That's the reasons where you can grow on all surfaces. We grow all through the winter.
That's one thing that people might not understand, is that here in Chicago they think that, well, you only have a couple of seasons that you can actually grow and harvest things, but with what you're teaching people how to do, you can actually create a situation where through the winter and through everything, depending on the type of plant that you're growing, you can go all year round.
Well, we use the technique that we kind of adopted from Mr. Will Allen, Growing Power, Milwaukee.
Okay.
Where we use hoop houses, solar tents, and low tunnels, which is a very inexpensive greenhouse.
Right.
and knowing how to heat it. That's a workshop venture.
and on this program, you know, one of my close personal friends is Kate Mayer from the Greater Chicago Food Depository, who does the Hunger Walk every year, which we're a big part of. We always talk about this issue of food deserts in Chicago and food insecurity. And we talk about this region of South Chicago and the areas that you're working in. There are true food deserts. Give people a little perspective on what that means in that area.
Okay, once back in the day, South Chicago area, such as the Bush, was one of the richest points of Chicago, meaning the old steel mill district. Now it's one of the poorest neighborhoods, meaning that it is truly a food desert. It's a 2.25 mile walk just to the nearest grocery store, which says that's a 4.5 mile round trip walk just to put a bell pepper on your table. It's truly a food desert, and throughout 2 gardens that we have there, we're able to supply and sustain 50 to 75 families with fresh vegetables throughout 3 seasons.
And part of that is not only teaching people how to grow, but why they need to grow and how they need to vary and have a diverse diet, because a lot of the health issues that a lot of our communities are having are based on the fact that people just are not eating right.
Right, because a lot of our food, well, none of our food is grown here in Illinois that we consume. So everything that we grow is strictly organic, no pesticides, straight from the ground. We try to keep that as established as much as we can, because people don't understand that eating healthy gives you a healthier attitude.
Right, and that lends itself to everything else that's going on in the community and how progressive and how successful people are. Recently, you've set a lot of goals as far as how many gardens you want to actually have up and running. Tell us how you're doing on those goals.
Well, our goals is to have 50 gardens throughout the city up functioning. We have 49 right now. Our ultimate goal between now and the year 2020 is to have 100 functioning gardens, which would feed the equivalent of 200,000 to 285,000 people a month, which would lessen the value of hunger throughout the city of Chicago.
And I mean, that's significant, particularly when we're looking at what's going on in our economic situation over the past couple of years. There may be a light on the horizon, but we're not sure. But teaching people how to do for self, I remember another good friend of our show, Naomi Davis, from an organization called Blacks in Green, talks about grandynomics. And I like the way she uses that word, because it's really, if we look at our grandparents and our great-grandparents and how they were able to use the land and really be at one with the cycles and watch nature and how to grow and how to sustain and take care of yourself, how to mend things, how to fix things. A lot of us, people my age or younger, have lost the ability or the skills to do these kind of things.
Well, it's not so much that they lost the ability or the skills, they didn't have a chance. Because we lost 2 generations into this drug disease, where a lot of the people, the elder senior people, got caught up into this drug, whatever you wish to call it, where they didn't have the chance to pass this on to those younger ones. A good example is we did a program through Corrections Associates List and Craft Foods, where we had 502 Maridale Youth Summer youth in one program, and a gentleman, Bernie Smith, who's a luxurious house builder, let us use 2.5 acres of his land. Well, these children created a huge garden called Garden Town, but without our expectations that we had kids from as far as 87th and Cicero, Harvey, Illinois. We had the whole East Side children, and we had children coming as far as from Evanston to 97th and Marquette. And as I said, the program was through Corrections Association's New Community Project, and it was funded by LIST. And these children, having these children there, brought down the crime rate in South Chicago, because we had them there every day. They weren't on the corners bored.
Right.
And they learned so many things that every year they come back.
And there's an internal change that happens, particularly with a young person who may not have been exposed to things that really gives them a sense of self-respect.
Yes.
But when you're able to take something from a seed, watch it grow, and get something from it, just seeing that cycle and seeing how things happen and how you're at one and you're in connection with the land, that has to change people internally.
Not only change them internally, it brings them together as a community, as a neighborhood. See, Chicago has communities, but Chicago is one big neighborhood itself.
That's correct.
So we had no incidents, we had no one using drugs, we had not one fight, and we had 502 children, and we only had 3 supervisors.
Wow. A fantastic program, and I mean, this bushel is just one small example of the fruits of your labor, as we can call it. And this is the kind of thing you can do in your own living space, in your own living quarters,
yes.
and you can teach people exactly how to do this. And in South Chicago, you have 15 gardens going in South Chicago
yes.
alone.
Yes, 15 gardens in Chicago, in South Chicago.
In South Chicago.
49 throughout the city, and it stretches from Robbins, Illinois to Evanston.
Wow. Fantastic work you're doing, Gregory. If you want more information about what's going on there and how to learn some of these techniques and apply them to your community, you can contact Intergenerational Growing Projects. Intergenerationalgrowingprojects.blogspot.com is a place to get information, or call 773-319-1279. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. And thanks for the produce.
Thank you.
Because we're in a food desert in this building. We got some hot Cheetos downstairs, but I haven't seen a green pepper in a while. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more from South Chicago. Welcome back to Now That Chicago, talking South Chicago. What a great segment there. But, you know, just having a bushel basket full of fresh produce means nothing if you don't know what to do with it. And I hold here in my hand a great manual, the Homemaking Skills Institute manual. Joining me is Betty Nichols, Executive Director of Homemaking Skills Institute. Betty, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
A lot of people, I mean, I can say I'm guilty myself of it, just don't take the time to plan to eat right, to prepare meals. And when you have fresh produce and you have access to this, it really means nothing if you don't take the time to plan. I think that's what this is really all about.
Yeah, and I want to ask you why. You know,
Why?
you are an important
Oh,
person.
I got my Facebook time, and then I got to play some video games. I take my daughter to the park. I just don't have time.
And so there's 5 days to do that. And on the weekend, it's the time that you prepare yourself for the following week to get busy again. But you prepare yourself by going to the grocery store so that you can get a chance to walk around in there, which is exercise. You select the items that you want to eat on next week. Take time out for yourself to prepare those healthy meals. You can take small portions and put in the freezer. And on your way out the door that morning, put them down in the refrigerator so when you come in, you can pop it in the microwave. Very simple, very inexpensive, and as a result of it, it's healthy. It prevents high blood pressure, diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, even at young ages.
Now, I happen to know that I'm not going to say any names, but I have some people in my very inner circle of my life that are a disaster in the kitchen. They simply cannot cook for whatever reason. I mean, this is one of those basic skills that I think a lot of people my age or younger just have lost because it's so much easier to just go to a restaurant or go to a fast food place that we've lost the ability to prepare something that tastes decent.
George, I truly understand what you're saying, and somewhere along the way we lost that. We stopped teaching our generations that are following us how to prepare healthy meals or how to cook. But that's what the problem is now. We have to get back to basics. And the basics of what our parents and our foreparents taught us was to grocery shop, was to eat healthy. When I was coming up, we didn't have the problem that we have today with obesity or, you know, eating out. We didn't eat out. We ate at home. And eating at home, we didn't grow up with the illnesses that our young people have today, which is how Homemaking Skills Institute got started. We got started by wanting to teach our young people how to cook meals or some type of snack. When school is out, they don't have to stop by the local store and buy those hot Cheetos that you were talking about earlier, and the sugary drinks, but that they can go home and prepare something. As Gregory has stated so wonderfully about all of the vegetables that he grows, I have from time to time in the South Chicago community prepared those dishes for our constituents so that they can see how convenient it is, how easy it is, and how tasteful it is. As a result of it, I have gained them and won them over because our vegetables and our fruit are the things that are going to keep us going and keep us here a little longer.
When we discuss, and on this program from time to time, we discuss different issues like diabetes and obesity and high blood pressure, hypertension, these things that are affecting many of our communities. And many of these things, if you talk to any physician, are preventable simply by maintaining, watching what you eat, watching your diet, and trying to educate people and really put in their minds that it's like things don't it doesn't mean it's bland just because it's good for you. And you can have all your other treats in moderation, but for the most part, you got to put more green stuff in what's going inside.
Well, George, you know, scheduling. We have to learn to schedule in. Just like you schedule Facebook time and taking your daughter to the park, you have to schedule in your life, you, a person. You know, you give everybody the time that you need for yourself. And you're an important person. So being important means that you have to take care of you, you have to feed you properly. You're absolutely correct when you say we think it's bland and we think it doesn't taste well. That's not true. I guarantee you that vegetables taste so much better than meat. Not that I am a vegetarian. I am a person that likes to eat healthy. And when I say that, I would prepare, if I prepare it, which I am a chef by trade, so I did learn a few things along the way. But when I prepare it myself, I don't get the grease and I don't get the fat because I am learning how to eliminate it because it tastes better. Season it with the herbs like Gregory has grown and the peppers and the different natural vegetables, and I'm telling you, it is appeasing to your appetite.
I've had the opportunity to have on this program Dr. Terry Mason, who's formerly of the Chicago Department of Public Health, and you know, one of the things that he really tried to really push a campaign out there is that you don't have to make a revolutionary change in what you're doing. Just try every now and then to try and incorporate these things. If you do it for 5 days, if you do it for 10 days, or do it for 30 days, just try it, see how you feel. When you start feeling the difference in your life, it'll encourage you to keep moving down this path.
You know, George, in the South Chicago community, and under the umbrella of the Claretian Associates, where the new community program, Jackie Samuels is the director, Gregory and I, were funded this summer by Kraft and Liz to get into the community to show them how fun and how tasteful healthy eating can be. And we were in various places. We were at Wolf Lake under another program. We were at the coffee houses in the area, just various places. And it was all about healthy eating, vegetables. Tried it for 30 days, you say? Some people were like, I'll never go back to the way I ate. Because this has really impressed me that this is lasagna and there's no meat, it's just vegetables. And so I think our problem is we don't introduce it enough where people are able to know that, you know, it tastes good, it's fun, and wow, it's not bad. It's not as bad as we think.
Something as simple as, and my producer has mentioned this before, something as simple as choosing, you know, a whole grain bread over white bread. Simple things like that can make a huge difference in your health.
Absolutely. It absolutely can. And then there's another little thing that you left out. Not only just choosing the different grains that we put in our diet, but the amount. You know, we think that we need this huge plate of whatever, and we really don't. We eat it so fast until we don't give it an opportunity to digest properly. We don't drink enough water, so it fills up those other areas where when you get up, you're like, oh, like I'm starved. So the new thing today, George, and I'm going to come back and see you again, is take time for you. And then when you take time for you, you will find out that the difference in loving you as opposed to giving it away to everybody else, not that that's bad, is that you're going to live longer, and then you will get to love them even longer.
Fantastic philosophy there. And of course, you know, we're running out of time here, but homemaking skills isn't just about cooking. There's a lot of other things. Yes. You know, I have a button coming off my suit jacket right now. It's been like 3 weeks. I've done nothing about it. I wish I could just sew a button on.
Oh, wow. And you know, again, in the fall of last year, we were at the new community program again. They also sponsored us with another grant to go into the neighborhood elementary schools where our children don't have as many life skills. The YMCA Street Intervention under William Pettis, they had a program where the gangs were so infested, instead of trying to break those gangs up, we were in there teaching them skills. We use this very book to teach some of our little girls.
It's a great framework for making change. I'm going to have you back, because we didn't even get into talking about the importance of influencing youth and seeing how you connect with them on that. I want to take a short break. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
George.
When we come back, I'm going to give you all the contact information for all our great guests today, and then I'm going to buy one of these Amazon peppers and you'll see me cry on TV. We'll see you in just a minute. Thank you for joining us on Now Chicago this week. Special thank yous to all of our guests. Joann Podkul, Chair of the Calumet Stewardship Initiative. Log on to calumetstewardshipinitiative.com. Of course, we want to say a special thank you to our great steward of the land, Gregory Bratton, Executive Director of Intergenerational Growing Projects. Log on to intergenerationalgrowingprojects.blogspot.com or call 773-319-1279. And last but not least, Betty Nichols, Executive Director of Homemaking Skills Institute, teaching you those granny-nomics, those things your mother and grandmother used to do. Log on to homemakingskillsinstitute.org or call 773-603-5153. We'll see you next week right here on Now Chicago.